When I first started my fat loss journey postpartum, I thought that I was doing everything right. I was having all the high protein products to keep me nice and satiated because everyone said that I should be hitting high protein. I was having light breakfast or sometimes even skipping them because I was on the go and I thought, well, at least I'm saving calories. And I was tracking my food because I knew that if I was to hit a number, I knew that I would get to my goal. But the truth is, I was exhausted, I was hungry, and I still wasn't really seeing the results that I wanted. But over time, I realized that it wasn't about eating less, it was about eating better. So today I want to talk about what I used to eat then and why it didn't work, what I eat now, and the 3 biggest mistakes that I made, especially as a busy mum managing PCOS. Back then, I thought less food, better, faster fat loss. I'd have a bagel or cereal in the morning, grab a protein bar or some sort of meal deal at midday, of course with a coffee to boost my energy, and try to save my calories more for dinner. Now, the 3 mistakes I made looking back, and something that I work with all the time with my ladies, is that I had really low protein meals. I tried to booster this up with little protein snacks, protein yogurts, chicken fridge raiders, baby bells through the day to try and bridge the gap with every single meal because I was just so hungry. I ended up finding I was leaning on quick fixes, coffees to boost my energy, and processed sweet treats just to boost my mood. But when I was trying to be good, I was trying to avoid carbs completely because I was told that they weren't good for PCOS. But there's only so many times I can make banana pancakes or an omelette in the morning without running out of time, and it just wasn't sustainable. And despite the fact that I was reaching a calorie target and dropping some weight, however, I was snappy, I was bloated, I was tired, and I was exhausted of feeling always empty, always hungry, feeling like I was thinking of food all day, which actually just made my symptoms worse. So now I build my meals around 3 main things, and I talk about this all the time with my clients. Firstly, protein at every single meal. If we can break this down at 30 grams per meal, it allows us to get to at least a base minimum. So instead of just a big bagel in the morning, I swapped this for Greek yogurt, a natural source, because I was leaning so much on the processed protein that I wasn't actually feeling very full. So I swapped this to more of a whole foods, a Greek yogurt with homemade granola, topped with volume. Another aspect that is so important in the 3 key things. So volume is our fruits, our veggies, our fiber. How do we add more to our plate to make it look and feel like we're eating more? Not only does this balance blood sugars, but it also makes you feel more satiated, has a positive effect on energy, and therefore, of course, more adherent to your diet. As someone that deals with PCOS, I don't really lean a lot more on fruit anymore, although that used to be a real staple back in my diet. I thought, if it's fruit, it's fine, but obviously that still has a little bit of an effect on blood sugars. So I do top this with berries in the morning, but for the rest of the day, this really relies on vegetables, salads, all that sort of stuff for lunches and dinners. Also carbohydrates, but more importantly, the right carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates that allows us to elongate our energy, that also helps us keep us nice and satiated. So these are the 3 areas that I make sure is at every single meal. Has it got a protein source? If it hasn't, how do we introduce it? Has it got a carbohydrate source? Ideally a complex carb that is more slower releasing. And also, has it got some volume? Have you got fiber in the plate that you can add a lot more to? When we think about that typical healthy plate, I always say to my clients, quarter should be protein, another quarter should be carbohydrates, and that full half of the plate should be more volume. But balancing my meals like this made such a massive difference, especially with PCOS, because now my energy is more stable, my cravings have actually reduced, and I can actually be more consistent with my diet because I don't feel deprived. And my results from that diet change has allowed me to be more adherent and therefore better results. So the 3 mistakes that I would avoid now if I was going into my own fat loss journey again is not to avoid carbs. They are not the enemy. They can be so important to balance your energy and actually help you feel satiated. I would ensure that I'd prioritize protein at every single meal, not just one, not just dinners, but at every single meal if possible. Not to mention balancing that protein with a good amount of carbohydrates and also some volume on the plate to keep you nice and satiated to reach your result. But also not to fear calories, but not to just buy into low calorie products or high protein products because you feel that that is the right thing to do. Finding something and actually investing more calories into something can actually be more beneficial. So the 3 mindset shifts I had: eat to feel full, not just light. I always aimed for small, low calorie this and that, and I always felt empty as a result. Now I aim for meals that actually fuel me, because when you stop fearing a number and you stop fearing calories, you can stop overeating later. Shift number 2, carbs are fuel, not the enemy, especially if you've got PCOS. When I tried to cut carbs, I ended up crashing, and as a result, I would binge later because I felt so empty. Once I started actually pairing them properly with a bit of protein, with some volume, not only did my mood improve, but my adherence improved and therefore my results, even with PCOS. Food is about nourishment, not punishment. I used to overeat on all of the good foods because I just knew that on their own, they were healthy, but actually that wasn't really the case because I ended up overeating a lot of food and therefore in more of a calorie surplus. Then I'd feel guilty because I went over my number. I used to think eating well meant that I would never treat myself, that I would never eat outside of that because it would just technically be bad. But a real life plan works with all aspects. It's not just being healthy 100%. Health is a massive spectrum in the sense that we can include these foods to A, be more adherent, B, actually enjoy life, but C, give us variety to be able to stick to things. Shift number 3 is about nourishment, not punishment. For so long, I thought that eating healthy meant eating perfectly. That if I had some sort of treat food, I would try and then have to make up for it the next day. I would then over-restrict, feel really empty, and just sort of resent the process. What actually helped me reach my target and actually transform my body, even with PCOS, was learning to actually include the foods that I love into my diet, not as some sort of naughty treat that I was cheating on my diet with. And you know what? With PCOS, that was huge because the less stress and pressure I put on myself every time I did have these foods, the easier it became to be more consistent and therefore still get my result, because that's what balance is about. And when we're looking at a real life diet and we're trying to build a structure and a routine that actually works, that is healthy for someone, that's really important to include. So that's what helped me drop 30 kilograms, reduce my symptoms, and actually learn to fuel my body rather than constantly fight it. So if you are where I was, feeling tired, hungry, and stuck in a bit of a cycle, then start with one of these changes. You'll be amazed how much better your body feels and responds when it finally feels fueled and supported. And if this video helped, then hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what your biggest food mistake has been.